if you were making the size extra small, small, medium size only, you're going to need to knit side panels on your cardigan. So if you're making a different size, you can skip this section entirely and move ahead to the back neck panel. So here I have the extra small, small, medium size assembly diagram. No, we're not going to look at the sleeves right now. We're just going to concentrate on the body. Now the side panels are just some simple rectangles that are picked up along the sides of the cardigan. There are 4 in total, and we've already worked through how to pick up stitches and how to knit and garter stitch. So the only thing that you might have questions about for the side panels is exactly where you're going to work them. So if I look at this diagram here, this is my back, this is my front, and these 2 squares fall over the shoulders. So the first one you're going to knit is the right back side panel, and the right and the back is referred to as if you were wearing the cardigan. So if I was wearing the cardigan, it would be more like this. This is behind me, these are my shoulders, this is the front. So then in that case, this is the right side, this is the back. This is where my first panel is going to be. So you're going to start your pickup here, and you're going to pick up 20 stitches along this square, 1 stitch in the seam, 20 stitches along this square for a total of 41 stitches. You're going to work and garter stitch for 1 inch and cast off on the wrong side. You're going to do exactly the same thing on the left front, except this time you're over here. And you're going to begin your pickup with the right side facing, and it starts over there. So that's your left front. Then you're going to do the left back. But this time, because the right side is facing, you're going to start here. You're going to start your pickup right here and knit back and forth for 1 inch and cast off on the wrong side. And then last but not least, you're going to be doing the right front side panel, which is down here. So that's also not at the edge of your work. It's at right where that second and third square meet, and you'll be working in this direction. So the right side is always facing, and it's a little side section just to extend the front and back ever so slightly to get a good fit, because this section across here of just 3 squares isn't quite large enough. This is going to give us a little extra room to make that cardigan fit really well. So I'll show you what this looks like when it's completed. Excuse the ends that are not woven in yet. So here, now this can't all fit on my screen here. This is the back. So these are the 9 squares of my back, and you can see along the bottom 2 squares, I've got this inch knit right here, and it was picked up beginning down here. And there's my other side, which I started picking up here. So that's the back. And then that's the section for my neck. And here are the fronts. So they have that same inch picked up over here on the front on either side. So when that gets seamed together, if I fold that and align the bottoms, those are going to line up along the side. So that's going to be a little extension under each underarm to make the body just a little bit wider and make everything fit nicely. So if you're working the smallest size, go ahead and knit your side panels, and then we'll take a look at the back neck panel. The back neck panel, which you can see here as it's completed, is picked up and knit along the square at the back neck opening. So what that looks like, if we take a look at the assembly diagram, this is our back, these 2 sections equal the front, and this is our neck opening. So if I turn that around so it's oriented the way I have my sweater here, it's this square right here. We're working right along this edge. So we've already done this before. We've looked at how to pick up along a cast off edge. I've picked up 20 stitches here. So if you pick up one stitch along each stitch of your bind off or cast off row, you'll have 20 stitches, and you just work back and forth knitting and garter stitch until you've got 3 inches. So that's going to bring this section up to the height of our folded square here. So it's 3 inches is half of our 6-inch mitered square. And that's just going to make the cardigan fit so much nicer once we've got our front and neck edging that we're going to do next. So knit to your 3 inches and do not cast off. You're going to end on a wrong side row, and then you're going to slip the stitches to a stitch holder. You can use something like this, or a very large safety pin, or you can slip it onto a scrap piece of yarn, and you're just going to slip those stitches off the needle and onto your holder without knitting them. So I would slip all of them just like that, one at a time. And then when I was finished, I'd clip that so that it's nice and secure, because we're going to knit those stitches later, and by leaving them live, then we don't have to pick up stitches there. We're just going to knit the stitches, the loops that are already live and ready to go. Now, before we work our next step, you're also going to want to seam this side and this side of our back neck panel to the half of the mitered square over here. And make sure you hit that halfway point. And we've already looked at that before. On this side, we are seaming the side of these garter ridges to the side of these garter ridges. On this side, it's side of garter ridges to cast off stitches. So go ahead and make your back neck panel, and then we'll take a look at finishing. In our instructions under finishing, it says to pin all pieces to measurements, cover with a damp cloth, leaving cloth to dry. So that's a very gentle way to block our pieces before putting everything together. And blocking is the process of dampening and pinning out your work to get your stitches nice and even out the edges. It's a bit like ironing when you're sewing or working with fabric. It just smooths everything out and gives you a nice professional finish. So I highly recommend not skipping this step. It's going to make a big difference to your final garment. So I'm working with just one square here, but you'll be working with your entire body piece and your sleeves. Now, you don't need a lot of fancy equipment to block your work, but there are some options out there that make things a lot easier. I have a foam block here, and similar ones are sold at Joann's, that you can pin into. It's a nice foam, thick foam mat, and it's got a grid of 1-inch squares, which makes it really easy to pin things to measurements. But you don't need anything fancy like this. You can also use children's play mats, foam play mats, very similar. I've used cork tiles for blocking. These are available at Joann's, and they're really easy to pin into. You could even use corrugated cardboard, just cover it in plastic because it's going to get wet. You can pin onto a carpet. You can even pin onto your bed, as long as it's somewhere where you can leave things undisturbed and it's a flat surface that's large enough to accommodate the pieces that you're blocking. So what you're going to want to do is take your piece. Now, again, this is just one small block. You're going to be dealing with a much larger piece, and pin it to the measurements. So the measurements are in your assembly diagram, your schematic in your pattern. It will tell you how large each piece is supposed to be. So I'm pinning this out to 6 inches square. So what blocking does is little things like this, where my corner is a little bit rounded. I'm going to stick a pin in here and bring it right to the corner for a nice sharp straight edge. And I'm using what are called T-pins, obviously because they're T-shaped. These are a little stronger than your typical sewing pin. Yeah, they're just going to hold up a lot better than your standard pin, but you can use a standard sewing pin no problem. So I'm just going to pin this out in a few different places. And now what you're going to want to do is take a towel. So I've got you can use a tea towel here. You can use a bath towel. That's just going to take longer to dry. You're going to soak that, wring it out so it's just damp, and then place that on top of your work. And that's just going to add a little bit of moisture that's going to help set your stitches. So now things are really coming together, and it's time to sew your sleeve into your body piece. So what we're going to do is sew the top of the sleeve where your shoulder would be, and that's going to fit into your body a little bit differently depending on what size you're working on. So here I have the extra small size, and it's got the side panels that we worked, and your sleeve is going to fit just in between those side panels on each side, and you're going to sew the side of the panel and across the 3 squares and up this way. And you can use the same seaming methods that we looked at previously in our other videos. So if you are working the next size up, the large, extra large size, it's going to look a little bit different because remember, we've already seamed the sides when we were assembling the body because there's a square that wraps around the side. You don't have a side seam necessarily like the other sizes. So again, if I take my little model that I've cut out here, these pieces are going to be seamed already before you put in your sleeve. And here's my little model of my sleeve. So for this one, you're just going to be joining the same top 3 squares, but it's going to be folded like this because our piece is already assembled. It's not flat. And then you're also going to want to seam across the top of that square on either side, on the front and the back. And then for the last size, we don't have side panels. The side edges are not seamed. So all you're going to do is simply join the top 3 squares of the sleeve to the center 3 squares at either side of the body. And that's it. Now we're going to be making the sleeve edging. So this is the cuff at the wrist of your sleeve, the wrist edge. And we're going to do that by picking up stitches while the work is still flat before we've seamed under the arms. And I think why it's designed this way is because when you pick up and you're knitting flat in garter stitch, you're knitting every row. If you seamed the sleeve up first and picked up and worked in the round, you would have to knit 1 row, purl 1 row. And most people find knitting easier than purling. So I know I would prefer to do it that way. It's also a little bit easier to pick up stitches when your work is flat. So if you're using the assembly recommended in the assembly diagram, your last mitered square is going to be oriented so that the ends of the rows are at your cuff edge. And this is also the end of the rows of your side shaping. So you're picking up the same types of stitches along garter ridges all the way across, which is quite simple. And we looked at the different ways of picking up stitches in a previous video. You're going to pick up 8 stitches evenly across this side edge along the side of your shaped section. Then you're going to pick up 20 stitches along this square and then another 8 stitches on this side. So once you've got all those stitches picked up using any of the techniques that we looked at previously, you're going to have 36 stitches, knit 4 rows, and cast off. And that's all there is to the cuff. So do that on both sleeves, and then we'll move on to the next step. So our jacket is really starting to come together and look like a jacket. We've got our side seams connected, so our back and our fronts are connected into all one piece, but these edges are still pretty raw. So what we're going to do is pick up and knit a bottom edging just to tidy up, neaten up, and make a really nice finish at the bottom of our jacket. So you're actually going to be doing this while the jacket is upside down. And you're going to begin in what would be the front left bottom corner. So if I take this piece and lie it out flat, there's my bottom left corner, my bottom right corner. You're going to pick up stitches from this corner across that front section, all the way across the back and to the other front section. Now this is going to look a little bit different depending on what size you're making, because on this one is the extra small, small, medium size. We have that little section in between our mitered squares, which is the side panels. You're not going to have that on the other sides. So take a look at your pattern to figure out exactly how many stitches you're going to pick up across this bottom edge. But for the most part, we're picking up 20 stitches along each mitered square. The pattern will indicate how many stitches to work across that side panel. 20 stitches here, 1 in the seam, all the way across. And again, we're going to be using a circular needle for this, the slightly smaller size circular needle, because we have so many stitches to accommodate here, that's just not going to fit on a straight needle. We're not joining in the round. We're still going to be working back and forth in rows, but you need this long cable to accommodate all those stitches. So go ahead and pick up the number of stitches indicated in the pattern for your size using the techniques we looked at before. And then all you're going to do is work garter stitch for 3 inches, ending on a right side row, and then cast off on the wrong side. And that's it. That's all you need to do for the nice bottom edging. So here we have our very last step of our project, the front and neck edging. And this is super simple because we've learned all of these techniques as we went along. Now you're going to be picking up stitches again, and you're going to begin at the front right corner. So if I was wearing this would be on my right side at the bottom. So you're going to begin to pick up stitches along the side of that bottom edging that we just worked in the last step. So take a look at your instructions and it will tell you how many stitches to pick up, but it's quite similar to what we've done before. You're going to pick up 11 stitches here, and then along each square, you're going to pick up 20 stitches and 1 in the seam. So you're starting at that front right corner, you're going to pick up stitches all the way up until we get to the neck. So once we get to the neck, remember we had these stitches on hold from that back panel. So that back panel ended right here and those stitches were on hold. So what I'm going to do when I get to those stitches is just pop those onto the left hand needle and I'm going to knit them. Then I'm going to end up over here and continue picking up stitches all the way down until I get to the front bottom left corner. And again, we're using a circular needle to be able to accommodate all of those stitches. And we're going down in needle size because it tightens up the garter stitch a little bit and just makes it a little crisper and neater, and it's going to create a really great finish. So once you've got all of those stitches, it's going to be 188 stitches for every single size. It's a lot of stitches, but we're covering a lot of ground in one step. So once you've got them picked up, 188 stitches, you're going to knit 14 rows and cast off when you're on the wrong side, and then that's it. For week 4, if you're making the size extra small, small, and medium only, you're going to want to work your side panels. Then for all sizes, complete the garment assembly in all seams, then complete the sleeve and body edgings. And that's it. You've completed your knit patchwork jacket. I hope you had a lot of fun making this project, and we'll see you again next time.